And next up, we have Jay Kleberg, who is running for Texas Land Commissioner. And Mr. Kleberg, you will have 4 minutes to give your statement and then 90 seconds for Q&A. So the floor is yours, sir.
Great. Thanks for hosting this on a Sunday afternoon. The General Land Office is the state's oldest state agency and manages about 13 million acres of public lands to benefit K through 12 education in the state of Texas through the Permanent School Fund, and also veterans through the Veterans Land program. It also oversees the Alamo and about $14 billion in natural disaster relief that comes out of the federal government through FEMA and HUD. I've spent the last 20 years of my life in land conservation, land management, natural resource conservation internationally at the federal level, and here in Texas as Associate Director of Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation. I'm an entrepreneur. I started a land sharing business that now has over 1 million acres under its portfolio, not just in Texas, but outside in New Mexico, Montana, Colorado, and California. And the idea behind that was to make sure that not only do we provide additional income streams to keep wildlife habitat and land habitat together to benefit all of our land, water, and air resources, but also to provide public access in a state that's 95% privately owned. I produced a movie called The River and the Wall, stood up against the wall and its negative impacts along the Texas-Mexico border, access to the Rio Grande wildlife habitat, and negative impacts to the binational communities there. And what I've learned in all of that work is that everything that we love in the state of Texas is at risk. And it's at risk due to climate change. And I've spent my career taking climate action. And those who have held this office have ignored the warning signs. We're number one in CO2 emissions in the nation. We lead the nation in billion-dollar natural disasters. We're 45th in education. And we're going to see a doubling of 100-degree days in the next 10 years. But rather than taking action, those over the last 20 years who've held this position have used it as a stepping stone. I have no interest in that. If you look at my life's work, it is in natural resource conservation and management, and that those who have held this office have failed all Texans. One, our Texas veterans homes, of which the General Land Office manages 9 in the state of Texas, had double the death rate of any of the nursing homes in the state of Texas. We saw a failure of the grid. That's a lack of diversity amongst the portfolio that the General Land Office holds, and that we've failed to push forward and lean into technology and opportunities in carbon capture, carbon sequestration, re-engaging in programs like the Texas Farm and Ranch Lands Conservation Program. And so I'll just leave you with this. One of the failures of the General Land Office will impact Kyle and Buda if it proceeds. They have tried twice to delist the golden cheek warbler. So much habitat in the hill country has been protected by that endangered species and those protections because of its habitat. And the General Land Office has chosen profits over the kind of environment and the kind of future that we would leave to our children. And so it's something that I would stand up against. And I appreciate y'all having us here and for the time.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have a question from Heiko Stang. He says, regarding the Alamo and Texas history and truth, how would you handle the recurring controversies?
That's a great question. So the Alamo Citizens Advisory Council has been put together with a number of representatives from the community. One of our supporters is Judge Nelson Wolf and Justin Rodriguez, who've been heavily involved in that process. And one thing that I would say and how I would deal with that is Texas is so diverse today and in our history before 1836 that we've had indigenous tribes, we have had Tejanos, we've had so many people, African-American and others who have contributed to this history, not just prior to, but during, but then after. If you look at some of the structures that the General Land Office manages, which are across the street from the Alamo in the Woolworth building and others, that they were part of desegregation of their stores in 1960 during that movement. And so I would treat it holistically, that we should celebrate the diversity in our history that should reflect the diversity that we have in the state today.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions. You still have about 30 seconds to go if you'd like to make a closing statement.
Yeah, I would just say that we're working hard to reach all parts of the state. We've made one round around the state of Texas and hit all regions and talked to a lot of people. We've received endorsements from Speaker Pro Tem Joe Moody, from Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, from Cecile Richards and Wendy Davis, the delegation at the House in the Rio Grande Valley, from both congressmen there, Ron Kirk in Dallas, the Tejano Democrats, the LGBT caucus in Harris County. And so we're not leaving anybody out. We want to give people a reason to come out and vote and address the issues. And we feel like having raised just over $500,000 that we can win this in the general. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you coming and joining us today for our forum at KBAD. Thank you much.
Thank you.